Review 3. Find the slope of each line. I've got my x's go on the bottom, -10 minus 11, and then 9 minus -12 for my y's up on the top. Make sure you watch those positive and negative values. This is going to be -21 over +21. I'm going to reduce that to -1 over 1. Subtracting negative is going to flip that sign. Anyway, -8 minus 20, or -20 rather minus 8. Does not matter as long as you keep the same point first, but just to be consistent, I will take and make sure we have those numbers straight. -12, that's going to give us 7 over 6, and it's going to be positive. Moving right along. We've got -12 minus 8 over 0 minus -1. It's going to be 1 over -20, and I'm going to reduce that, or not reduce, I'm going to switch that around to -1 over 20. I always want that negative value up on top if you can make, well, you can always make it that way. I like having it that way. It allows me to count. A little bit easier. 14 minus -4, we've got 18 over 9. That's going to be 2 over 1. And you can write this as 2, you can write this as -1, you can do that. I like having it as a fraction. That way when I go to graph, it's always counting. Now this one, you're going to get 9 minus 9 on the bottom, -15 minus -10. As soon as you get that 0 on the bottom, this is an undefined line. -5 over 0 is not an appropriate answer. On this one, when you get that -8 cancel out on the top, you're going to get a 0 on the top. Technically, 0 over, in this case, -24 is a number. It's 0. I would always take and work that bad boy down all the way for these two. So if you see those y values repeat, that means your y value is not changing. It's constant. That'll give you a slope of 0. If you see your x value is not changing, it's one of those vertical lines because x is not changing and it's that constant value for x. Those are the undefined lines. Finding the slope from a graph, you can do the calculations like this. Because we have the graph, I'm simply going to count. We went down 3. I went to the right 1. So my slope is going to be -3 over 1. On this one, I went up, I'm going to use this point right here, up 2 over 1 rather. So my slope is going to be 2 over 1. You can also go the up 6 over 3, but make sure you reduce before you finalize that answer. Looking at this one, I'm going to have to go down, what is that, down 3? And then over 6. No. 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I guess so, down 3 over 6. And then I'll reduce it to -1 over 2. There it is. I was looking for other points to cross. Got a little backwards. This one, I went up none. I went over 2. Going to reduce that 0. You can also just take a look at the slopes, flat line. Thus, slope of 0. Getting right along. Next page. Sketch graph of each line. Here we go. First thing we're going to want to do is solve for y. We want y by itself. In this case, I'm just going to add y to both sides. Y is equal to x plus 4. Start at 4. I've got my slope of +1. Looks just like that. On this one, I want y by itself. Again, the first thing I'm going to do is move my y to the other side using addition. So y is equal to -x minus 5. My paper here. Let's see if we can. There we go. Much better. Pull that 5 off, and I'll get y is equal to -1 over 5x minus 1. So down 1 over 5. And I'll go backwards to get myself a nice looking line there. There we go. This one y is already solved for. It's just not in the order that we're used to. +3 is our intercept. +1 over 5 is our slope. Again, get some points to make it look real nice. My last one, again, I'm going to move y to the other side. That'll give me 3y is equal to 8x minus 12. You'll notice I rearranged the order of that and put this whole thing on the left side of the equation with my y on the right side. There's really no reason other than personal preference. I like to see my x right by the equal sign. I like to see my y all by itself here on the left. It's just those visual cues give me a much better, it feels better to have it in those positions. You don't have to take and put them in those positions, but I like having my m right here, my b right here. It is entirely possible to say -4 plus 8 over 3x is equal to y, and this is still your m, this is still your b. I just I just don't like seeing it that way. I would prefer to see the y equals everything else on the right in the order of M and B. Continuing on, that's a bit of a sidetrack. X equal a number. If you forget that this is a vertical line, this line is going to look right like this. Got the -5. You can always go back to the original skill we used for graphing, which is find 2 points to satisfy the equation and draw a line. So I just need 2 points where x is -5. If I pick one point where y is 3, and I pick another point where y is -2, and I connect those two lines, it's actually right there, you're still going to get that vertical line. The same thing is true here. If I go 0, -2, and 5, -2, I have satisfied the equation where y needs to be -2. And if I take and graph those 2 points, I'm going to get the line, regardless of whether I remembered whether or not it was horizontal. So if you forget, you can always fall back on the skill of pick 2 points to satisfy that equation, and you will be correct. Linear inequality is going to have to solve for y again. Very careful with your negatives, because that negative this time will flip your inequality. I'll have -3x plus 5. Once again, replacing the order so that it looks more like something I'm comfortable with. Dividing by a negative, that sign is going to flip. We'll get positive 3 over 5x minus 1. Up 3 over 5. And yeah, that canceled out. Just making sure. Now this one, going to be a dotted line, and we're going to shade. We want dotted line because y is going to be greater than this, but it cannot be equal. Since it's going to be greater, I'm going to shade up. All the values that are above the line or greater than the line will satisfy this inequality. Subtract the 7 from both sides. 5y is less than -7x plus 20. Divide the 5 off, and you will get y is less than -7 over 5x plus 4. Start right here at plus 4, down 7 over 5. Going to be right there. Again, dotted. Y cannot be equal to the line, so we're going to signify that by dotting the line. We want to be less than. That will make us shade down there. Fantastic. All right. Next page. These two, we've got our equal than, less than or equal to. Move the x to the other side. I've got 3y is less than or equal to -x minus 15. Divide the 3 off. I'll get y is less than or equal to -1 over 3x minus 5. Get that minus 5, down 1 over 3, up 1 over 3, up 1 over 3 on the back end. I'll have a solid line because y can be equal to this line. And I'm going to shade down because y can also be less than. Number 20. Number 20. So pull the 3x from both sides. I'll get -2y is greater than or equal to -3x minus 6. Pull the -2 off. And I'll get y is less than or equal to, again, dividing by that negative flips my sign, 3 over 2x minus, or plus 3. That's going to cancel out, give you a plus 3. Positive 3 over 2. Go on backwards. And then get that line. Y is less than this line. And we're all done with that problem. Got enough time. All right, these. You're going to have to take and drop these in. Do not show this message again. We want you to take and go through the process. So the first thing I'm going to do is drop this into my stats. I'm going to press the stat button. We're going to edit my list, and I'm actually going to get a regression equation from my calculator. 4.9, 5.3, 5.95, 6.1, and 6.3. Then I'm going to go over here to L2 and put in my weights. 95.5, 109, 125, 161, 166. Too many. Oh, come on now. There we go. And then 183. So this is my x values, my y values. I'm now going to take and have my calculator rip off equation from this. So we go back into stat. We want to calculate a linear regression. It's going to give you some stuff. This is my x values. I just put in L1. This is my y values. If we wanted to make a graph on the calculator, we could do that. So let's calculate it. And there we go. That's our y-intercept, our slope rather, and that's our y-intercept. Let's we'll pause the video here.